you like the content I prepared for you. So first we are talking about artificial intelligence in black box. Many people are really interested about this term because it sounds like really about death and everything, but it's not about that actually. So let's begin. First, about me. I am an undergraduate student at University of São Paulo, and I consider myself as an artificial intelligence evangelist. So I have my own purpose of talking to people about AI, explaining what it is actually to demystify some concepts people have. And actually, I'm a community manager at Perifa Code. Perifa Code is a community in Brazil. We look to help people that are poor and don't have access to internet or technology. So we try to teach them how to code. That's our tenet. And a community manager at Womakerscode. The goal of Womakerscode is to empower women. So if we want to talk later about this, we can talk. We can chat about that. So let's start this presentation with a question. How many decisions have been made by artificial intelligence about you in this year, in this week? Have you ever thought about that? I've been thinking about this, and what I noticed is that many decisions are made about us by artificial intelligence, and we don't really understand how this happens or how is these algorithms taking decisions in our lives. So I'm a developer for a living, so for full disclosure, I'm kind of nerd, so I like to study about AI, I like to talk about coding, and every time there is a breaking news about robots taking our places or Sophia getting a citizenship of a real country, my friends come to me like talking about the future and robots take our jobs and everything else. But we can blame Hollywood for that because they sell to people that don't know how artificial intelligence works, that robots are going to take our place and you're not going to have a place in the future. You're going to be replaced. I don't believe that actually, but many people believe, so I decided to talk and explain to them that this is a long, far way to happen. So Sophia and Skynet are the most subject people talk, like worried and everything else. I don't really understand why. Maybe it's because of the moves, as I said. But let's talk about something really more important. I think we can be talking about robots and everything. We have more subjects to talk, more important things to discuss. So let's go back to the first question. How many decisions have been made by artificial intelligence about you? And how many of these decisions have been made considering your race, your gender, your background, where you live, where you study, where you work? So many people are wondering about this and discussing that because many news about racism, algorithm racism, and prejudice are dominating the news, in US at least. So let's understand better how these algorithms are taking these decisions and why we should worry about this. So this year there were two conferences really important that happened in United States. One of them was Google I/O and the other one was South by Southwest. Artificial intelligence, of course, was one of the most trendy topics and hot topics. People were like, oh, I want to know what Google is launching for next year. I want to know what is the most innovation startups about artificial intelligence. But for surprising many people, despite of presentations, workshops, and talks, the most trendy talks weren't about new tools or applications or softwares. The most important subject in artificial intelligence was about data, bias, ethics, privacy, and law. So you maybe think, whoa, I wasn't expecting that actually. Yes, but many people are studying that. Google really have a whole research team studying it because all these words are really important. They have real impact in our lives, and many people are studying how artificial intelligence will really impact our lives. Because we don't really live artificial intelligence right now, We are understanding how it works, using some applications, but you don't really live it. We don't really have robots helping us. You don't really have robots cleaning your houses or something like that. This is like future. But so let's talk about this. This year I wrote an article on iMasters. Maybe some of you know about this portal. It's a really big portal in Brazil, and I wrote about exactly this subject, artificial intelligence black box. For my surprise, at least, people didn't like the content of the article. But if you can access this QR code, it's going to redirect to the article. The most important of the article is not the article, actually, it's the comments. So I recommend you read the comments, the Facebook comments, because they are really, I found it funny, because people are like saying, you're talking bullshit. This is not real. This is, you're fucking feminist. I hope they can cut this in the video. So, so they were really like this. Yes, that were exactly their vocabulary. So I'm repeating their words, okay? And many people otherwise said to me, "Oh, I have some teachers in US that really would like to talk with you about this subject," because I decided to talk to Karen Hall. Karen Hall is a journalist for MIT Review. I decided to talk to her on LinkedIn. I wasn't hoping her to reply, but she replied. And I talked to her and asked, in Brazil, I having really issues to talk to people about bias because they don't receive this subject well. They think this is not important. They think this is like a sensationalism or something like that. And I was like, does this happen in US? She said, yes, this happens, not like you are saying, but what is really happening here is a lot of people are talking about this, but none of them is doing something to change this scenario. So we have to do two things here. We have to talk about this and do something to change the scenario. So in this presentation, I hope I can talk to you about this to open your minds and also explain how inside University of São Paulo we are trying to open this black box, as we can say. First thing, I want you to keep this phrase, this sentence in your minds. We need to talk less about artificial intelligence hype and more about how AI is changing our lives and how we are using this technology. So I know it's really exciting talking about robots and dystopias and everything, but there are really big problems, really big issues that we have to face right now. And I want to share with you what I've been trying to do and the world has been trying to do. First case, I want to bring some case just to give an example. First case from Google Photos, so 2015. In 2015, one boy posted their friends' photos on Google Photos, and the platform categorized their friends as gorillas, their black friends. This was really shocking. Google had really issues with this problem, and a lot of people were like, oh my God, what is going to happen when you have like autonomous car in the streets and they have a choice to make? They see a white person and a black person that the algorithm thinks it's a monk. So they are going to kill the white guy or the black person because it could be a monk. So many people were like talking about that. Google never solved the problem. Their solution was, okay, let's remove monkey, gorillas, and all similar terms from the platform. So people, they can search for these words. This is not a solution, you can agree with me, but we are going to understand why they couldn't make a better solution for this problem. Second case, this is an article called Gender Shades. It's from MIT research called Joy. Joy has a TED about it. You can watch this later. It's really nice. She decided to test some facial recognition algorithms with her. She's a black woman. And she noticed that these algorithms couldn't recognize her face. So in her TED, she makes an experiment. She tries to she tries to use these algorithms of facial recognition, and they don't recognize her face. But when she puts a white mask it recognized her and said it's a white woman. So she decided to, let's dive deep in these algorithms and understand how they are working for black people. She discovered that these algorithms actually have less accuracy for black women and black people, and she decided to talk about it. So it's another example that how we have to improve these tools, because this problem has social impact and also they are a bug. So working for everyone is not a feature. We need to be inclusive. So this is a bug. We have to correct it. And she said in her TED, I decided to bring a quote: whether AI will help us reach our aspirations or reinforce the unjust inequalities is ultimately up to us. So it's up for everyone here to talk about the subject after this presentation. I'm giving you a home task. And share with people these concerns, what is really happening, how this case can impact your future, because we are trying to understand what is happening and changing this in the future. The third case is a tweet. In 2017, a Twitter user posted this machine that couldn't work with his hand because he's a black guy. So there is a sensor, and the sensor couldn't recognize his hand because he's a black guy. And she was like, oh, if you have ever had a problem grasping the importance of diversity in tech and its impact on society, watch this video. So he raised a really big concern that should be a really big concern for all of us that work with technology, that we need diversity and why diversity is important. And many people said in the tweets, comments, that if there was only one developer, a black person, developing this machine, it couldn't happen because the person would have tested and this machine doesn't work for black people. But there wasn't this person. So diversity comes again, teaching us that is how this is important. The fourth case is really recent. It's from 2 days ago. It's an MIT Review article about Google's algorithm for detecting hate speech. Actually, there is a study about this. All the articles I'm bringing, there are links in the slides I would make available for you later. So in this article, the researchers were like, let's understand how this hate speech recognition works. They noticed that 46% false positives from African Americans. So even when African American posts a tweet that is totally inoffensive, the tool, that is Perspective API, categorized these tweets as offensive. So another problem they identified is that African American authors are 1.5 times more likely to be labeled offensive. So there is a problem with these tools because they are penalizing black people, African American people. Fifth case, COMPAS Software. Maybe you heard about this because it's a really trend topic, hot topic people like to discuss and bring as an example for this kind of discussion. COMPAS Software is a software that uses an algorithm to determine if a person has a chance to commit crimes again. So they were using this number, this score, to decide how many years this person would be in jail. Many people are like not trusting this algorithm. It makes a lot of sense because people don't know how this works, and it's normal for people that don't work with this, and even us that work with this, to not trust these tools and algorithms and be like, if this really works, if this is fair. So there is a whole study, the link can explain better about this. I'm not going to dive deep in the details, but the study concluded that black people were getting higher scores than white people just because of their skin color. So again, another problem. And even they tried to remove the photos and just considering the crimes that people committed, and it didn't work either because somehow the algorithm was still using the color of the person to determine these scores and giving higher scores for black people than white people. This case, as I said, are an example of how diversity is important in this case, and how many problems we still have before artificial intelligence becomes something real in our lives. So IBM Research is another company. This is researching about this problem. They have a diversity data set because many problems of these algorithms are with the data, not the algorithm itself. So maybe the data is not diversity enough to give a diversity response or a diversity solution or result. So they decided to create a diversity data set. So they say that this data set has a lot of diversity, has a lot of people of many colors, many different hairs, many different accessories, and everything else. So it's another company worried about this problem and trying to solve this. So maybe this is a good solution because many companies can find a really good data set to train their algorithms. This is a quote from an article from Google. The title of the article is Gender Balance Diversity Important to Machine Learning. So they discuss how in the US there are initiatives for women to learn how to use artificial intelligence, not actually women, but girls of 14, 15 years, how to teach them how to code, how they can choose this as a career if they want, and how they are important for this scenario, how they can change together this scenario. So they say artificial intelligence needs to learn from the real world. Creating a smart computer is not enough. You need to teach it the right thing. So I think this is like it compiles everything I said before. So we need to use artificial intelligence for good, for our good, and we need to teach them the right things. And we need to teach them that there's diversity in our world and how to deal with it. We can't penalize people just because of their color or their gender and everything. We have to find a way, no matter what, of how to change this scenario. I decided to look for a global gender report or gap in artificial intelligence because we can see in this room how there is a gender gap for women. And I decided to look for artificial intelligence. Imagine, if in computer science there is a huge gender gap, imagine in artificial intelligence. So I discovered that only 22% of AI professionals globally are female, compared to 78% who are male. So we have a really big gap and not many solutions of how to solve it. There are some communities in Brazil that try to change this, like AI girls, developers, BR, they have a community for this as well, for girls learning AI, and that's really nice. And they are like, they need our support. So I recommend that you look for them as well. But you maybe think, every one of us has a different bias. We were born in different places, have different fathers, different mothers, different families, different schools. Each one of us have a bias. It's normal, it's part of human being. That's not the problem actually. Bias is not the problem, okay? The problem is only considering one bias. That's the problem. So if we have a lot of different bias from different people, from different places, that's going to be solved because we have a lot of diversity that is in our world. We don't have how to be unbiased totally. So what we can do is talk to different people to have different bias, different opinions, different backgrounds, and all these people, all this diversity thinking together, I'm really sure, I really believe that this is how we are going to build artificial intelligence to help us in the future. These are 3 initiatives in the US. They aim to help people to democratize artificial intelligence. The first one is AI for All. On LinkedIn, there is an interview of Satya Nadella with the founder of this initiative. And the other one is OpenAI and Diversity AI. All of them are like, let's teach everyone, even people that are not from computer science field, what is artificial intelligence. And let's bring these people inside to understand what is happening. Because many reports show, like McKinsey have some reports, that in the future, artificial intelligence is really taking some jobs. That's fact. We can discuss with that. But what are you going to do if these people? Where are you going to put them when their jobs are taken? None of us in Brazil are really thinking about that. I saw that some countries are like creating a minimal rent to give people because of this gap that is going to happen. But we are not thinking about that. They decided to find this way of teaching people what is artificial intelligence and how to use it in our favor. So even though these decisions affect humans to optimize task performance, machine learning models often become too complex to be intelligible to humans. They become black box models. That's when we come with the concept of black box models. This concept is new. They decided to call black box because we don't really know how these algorithms work. Some of these algorithms work, so I will try to explain. What we have today is we have an input and data as input. We have a black box algorithm working, and we have an output. But we don't really understand what happens inside this algorithm. Let's use as an example a deep neural network. We can understand how this works, how the layers works, but we don't really know when the bias comes inside all these layers. You don't really know how to debug, let's say, how to debug a deep neural network. There are some tools that are new that try to make us understand what happens in every layer for every data, but it still is not intelligible enough for humans. And there is another problem. Let's think about COMPAS Software example of how we can convert justice to math. There are people for statistical field and math field trying to understand how to convert justice to math because it's like abstract concept. Justice is different for each one of us. So how to make for artificial intelligence justice is that. There's not really how to do this. This is a challenge they are having and trying to deal with it. I decided as well to bring some news about how governments don't trust AI and why this can be really dangerous. The first one is on France. Recently, France banned judge analytics. So if you try to analyze your data mining analytics from judge, you can be 5 years in prison. That is how it's in France. Many startups that were like in this field were like, oh my God, I can't do my work anymore. One of the founders said this new law is a complete shame for our democracy because his belief is that we have open data. We need to have open data so anyone can analyze this data or make data mining over this data and apply algorithms and understand how judges are making their decisions. Are they being biased? Are they penalizing black people? So this is another problem. Of course, this is a really big problem, but the most important thing in this news, for me at least, is that governments don't trust AI. And this can be a real problem in the future because it can stop artificial intelligence from achieving its potential. It can stop artificial intelligence of helping a lot of people because they really don't trust, because they don't know how to work. Probably you saw the interview of Mark Zuckerberg with the judge and everything else. They couldn't understand how Facebook works. They couldn't understand how an algorithm works. They couldn't understand anything. They totally didn't know about what they were doing there. So that's a really problem. And many people, when I talk about this subject, ask me how we are going to teach our government about these concepts, because they are really like in the past and we are like talking about the future. How we are going to balance this? I don't have the answer, but I think some people are thinking about that. I'm going to present some initiatives that are working with the government later. Second news, San Francisco banned facial recognition technology. So San Francisco decided to banish totally use of the face recognition. And you may be thinking, like, oh, that is terrible for artificial intelligence. That's terrible for people because facial recognition could be used to find kids, could be used to find a lot of different people who are missing. And you think, oh, that's really nice, that's really cool. But they don't think like that. Not that they don't want to do that, but actually they are afraid. They don't trust what is happening. So they are like how this works. They are worried about privacy, how this tool or this algorithm is going to be used. Who is going to be using this tool? So we can discuss a lot about privacy, about ethics in this case, but the fact is governments don't trust artificial intelligence. So let's talk more, not just about the black box and all the problems. I want to give you like a hope and how we can open this black box. First, there is a new concept, maybe of you maybe know or not, that is called explainable artificial intelligence. That's my study, that's what I really study, so we can talk a lot of this if you want. Basically, explainable artificial intelligence, it's a concept that was created by DARPA. It's an American agency. They decided to create this concept exactly to make artificial intelligence more intelligible for humans. Humans must understand how this algorithm works and how to debug them, and they create this concept. And this concept has two important concepts along: transparency and trust. Transparency and trust are the most important things you have to worry in this case. Transparency because we need to have open data and open algorithms, like we have algorithms deciding your credit score. How they work, which information they consider. Probably you don't know because these are like corporative secrets, and that's okay. The bank is not going to reveal it. But if artificial intelligence wants to help humanity, wants to help society, wants to help us with politics, we need to have transparency, and we have transparency of data and algorithms use. Because with this transparency, we can have people who work with this artificial intelligence and researchers studying these algorithms and understand if they are being fair or not fair. And trust, of course. Trust is the most important one because we need the government to trust this technology so we can really use this in our lives. So, explainable AI intends to create a new suite of machine learning techniques that produce more interpretable machine learning models. So we are going to understand better what this means. The first thing we need to understand is there is a difference in white box modeling and black box modeling. White box modeling are simpler computation, emphasis on introspection, form, cause effects, and process, or like we can say a decision tree. A decision tree is really easy to understand. Different, we have machine learning. Then we have a black box modeling. You have high computational complexity, emphasis on speed and quality of prediction, finding a performance model. So when we started to use machine learning models, we were more worried about accuracy and complex than interpretability. And now this is showing like, this is a problem. 2 decades ago, there were like authors worried about that, but right now we are seeing the impact of lack of interpretability. So, explainability has 3 ways you can work with this concept. The first one is pre-modeling explainability. The goal of this one is to understand the data you are using, like the case in the Google Photos. We could understand better the data they were using to identify this data set you are training your algorithms doesn't have a lot of black people faces, so it probably is not being good for black people. Or in the case of the facial recognition, the study of Joy. So this is a try to make explainable machine learning models, but before modeling, in fact. The second one is explainable modeling. These are people that are trying to create new models. So you're not going to use a deep neural network. You're not going to use convolutional neural networks. You're going to use another thing that can be a hybrid model. Like you're going to join a deep neural network with a decision tree to make a hybrid model that is more explainable for people or more intelligible for humans. This is a second approach people are using. The third approach, that is the one I am using, is actually understand how we can explain a black box model. So why I chose this approach? Today, all the companies and research, they already use black box models because they have a really high performance. and they have a higher accuracy than white box models. So they are already using. It's going to be difficult to say, oh, you have a new model you can use. They change all their pipeline and everything to use a new model. So why don't we try to take what they have, what they are using, to make this explainable for people? So there I'll show some ways we can use this approach. The first one is we have data. We train this black box model, and then we try to make interpretable information or explainable information from this black box model. So we have, for example, the drivers. That's the cause of the lack of explainability. We have the explanation family. That's how drivers cause target, and have the target. That is what we want to explain. And have the estimator. That's how explained is obtained. So the proposed taxonomy of this post-hoc explainability methods include the 4 aspects of targets, drivers, explanation family, and estimator. So post-hoc is actually post-modeling. It's the same thing. An example, when you have like image classification, suppose you have a deep neural networks that classifies images in cats or dogs, a binary classification, or is a cat or is a dog. What we try to do is insert some perturbations in the model. So we change the pixels of the image of the input, and understand which one of these pixels, what is their impact in the final result. This way we can like debug to understand. Let's see which pixel has more impact in the final result to understand how this model is taking decisions. This is only one way. And recently, actually this week, IBM launched a new framework or open source toolkit, you can say, that is AI Explainability 360. This open source toolkit, it has a lot of tools and everything talking about how to make more explainable models. So it's a really nice tool if you want to. They have some demos to explain how to use this tool, why this is important. They use an example of credit score. It's really nice if you want to look for it. I highly recommend you to look. But I want to bring this discussion to our territory, to Brazil. So we have this open portal of open data from our government, and we have a lot of data there, but a lot of us don't really access and download or analyze this data. But many people are like, we could use this data and artificial intelligence together to predict corrupt, to understand if your money is being spent well. So they decided to make this. And another thing that I said about open data is, if you want AI to really benefit people, you need to find a way to get people to trust it. Again, I want to reinforce that we need to explain to people how this works. I always train my presentations and talks with my mom. She's a nurse, and I always try to explain to her how this works. And she was like, oh my God, we can use this for health data, for data source. And yes, you can use that. We don't use because we have a lot of problems. This open data sometimes really confusing. We have a lot of cleaning process and pre-processing of this data. But she was like really excited. So I can understand where we are having more cases of some disease. So I can try, yes, there are a lot of things she can do. She was really excited. So I think one way we have to teach these people that are not from computer science field how this works, how artificial intelligence can help our lives. One of these projects is Operação Serenata de Amor. If you don't know this project, I recommend you to access their site and the Twitter bot, this Rosie. They actually use artificial intelligence to detect spends. So they analyze our political spends. And they say they use a bot to identify these spends and say, I think this spend is not okay, it's not correct. Maybe you can check with me. So it's a really nice application. Another one is Brasil.io. Brasil.io is a repository of open data. The owner, that is Turicas, he gets all this data, try to format, as I said, because they need a lot of pre-processing and transform it to an Excel file that's more accessible to people. And you can download this in Brasil.io. Another one is Colaboradados. Colaboradados, they are a really new initiative, but they have a podcast. They have a website with a lot of open data repositories, and they have a bot as well. So I recommend you look for this. And I want to be like you're thinking after this presentation that we need to talk less machines that are going to take our jobs and more about our technology can actually achieve. So we don't need to talk about Skynet right now. We have some big issue to solve. We have really big problems to solve before this happens. Because the choices we are making today about artificial intelligence are going to define our future. So this moment, I think, is a really special moment. I am very excited about that because it's an opportunity for me to contribute somehow with the future. Maybe I'm not going to be here to see robots take our place and everything in a revolution. Maybe I'm wrong and Skynet's going to take everything. But I want to make part of this, like explaining to people how AI works, talking to you guys, explaining how there are some concerns we need to solve, and how we are changing that inside university. So I'm really happy that you watched this presentation. I mean, listen, watch it, and thank you for your attention. This is my email and my Twitter, so it's @CarlaPR Vieira. And this QR code leads you to a feedback form. So it's my first presentation in English, so I hope you could understand maybe 80% or 70% of the presentation. And this QR code leads you to the slides. So you can download and access all the articles that I said and study more. That's my actually purpose here. Thanks.